Happy Tuesday, friends. Welcome to Beneath the Surface, where we talk passion, purpose, and focus. And today we had a reschedule with Ian Anderson, our guest for today, but no worries. We have a perfect and a great conversation with two of my colleagues here from the Volusia County area and Daytona Chamber members, regional chamber members, Miss Adrienne Barker from Halo Branded Solutions and a SCORE mentor. Hi, Adrienne. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Thank you.
And Miss Victoria Zinn, attorney at law, corporate real estate and probate law.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Thanks for joining us. And we're going to talk. This is exciting. This is exciting for me, by the way. We're going to talk gender roles, and we're going to talk some women's issues and just some conversations Adrienne and I have actually been having, I would say, on the back end of a lot of these one-on-ones that her and I have been hosting during COVID-19. So it felt like the right time to have a conversation. Miss Victoria said she would jump on with us, so I'm happy to have you both here. And let's talk gender roles. All three of us are involved or in male-dominated industries for the most part. So I think it's a good way to start this conversation. I would say that the printing world is starting to become a little more diverse as far as that goes. You're starting to see a lot more women franchisees, women managers, women outside sales reps, but it's definitely heavy on the male end. So how is it for you guys? I know we're all three business owners. Adrienne is wife and mom. Victoria is single, never married, children. I am divorced, no children. So just to kind of get an idea, right? Let's talk gender roles. What was it like for you guys stepping into these more male-dominated industry roles?
Go ahead, Adrienne.
Okay. Thanks, Victoria. Thanks, Carmen. It's very nice to be here. Actually, I always love speaking out. So I grew up in a family business, and I was always felt a little bit maybe more dominated being the youngest child and being a female. It's always hard to find your voice anyways. So finding a voice, being able to garner respect, because I know that you just can't go out and say, you got to respect me, Carmen, you have to respect me. You must, I'm a female, you respect me. So I think it really is harder to look at. First of all, you got to look at what you're wearing. I always found that was something that could be in the industry. So a lot of the females in the promotional products industry, it was very easy at different trade shows, at different events. You show a little cleavage, you have a little fun, a little dirty talk here and there, and you get invited to more parties. You can get nice dinners out. I'm not saying that you're buying anything, but it made you more fun. And I had said to Carmen, I'm kind of a little bit of a prude. And so, I never really fit in when the conversations were getting that kind of conversation. It was awkward for me, but it was always the females having those conversations that, I heard of. So growing up in this, I feel that looking around, I'm just thinking when I was back at a trade show and looking around, yes, a lot of men, a lot of older men, a lot of, oh, she's so cute. She's coming into the industry. And I think we have to work harder to really make our name who we are, to be listened to be, seat at the table. I remember, actually, I'll give you a quick story. We had an office in Celebration, and there was a supplier rep who came in who loved selling to our Disney reps that we had in the office, and would actually totally disregard me to the point where I had to say, excuse me, can you pinch me? Because I really think I'm here, but maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm like in another world and I'm wearing my Harry Potter invisible cape. And I called them out on it because I was like, you need to really look at all of us as equal. You're not trying to show me your products and trying to allow me to sell your products. It's just hurting yourself at the end. And I got him to understand, oh, that's right, because I'm just a female. And he was really not, he wanted to talk to the men.
That's insane. How about you, Victoria? What was it like? I mean, I would say that law is definitely male dominated still.
Yeah, it still is. Luckily, females are starting to break into the industry a little bit, but as a female, you're expected to practice family law. You're pretty much restricted to family law. They expect, pretty much everyone just expects that you're going to practice family law while you're in law school. And, as your career progresses, just because females are considered the more nurturing side. And of course, in most divorces, females want a female attorney. So you're pretty much expected that that's the direction that you're supposed to take your practice. If you've already been, acknowledged, or you've made a name for yourself as an attorney, that's where you're supposed to go. Now, if you haven't, I was just telling these ladies before, I've actually been mistaken for a paralegal or a secretary. I've been asked to fetch coffee at depositions, which is always a fun and awkward moment when I inform opposing counsel that I'm, obviously the opposing attorney and attorney of record on the case. So that's, it's always a really awkward moment. And they sort of just look at you like, well, that's unfortunate. So, there's a little bit of the expectation that females are meant to be in the support roles, paralegal or secretary or something like that in my industry. So I think being a young attorney was sort of one strike. Being a young female attorney makes two strikes, but luckily I'm not out. So
that's awesome. I mean, it's horrible, but it's awesome that we're all here, that we're all women of influence and women of voice in our community. So I think that's what unites us to be able to have these kinds of conversations. But, kind of going back to some of the things that you guys have experienced when we first purchased the center. I purchased the center with my best friend, and he was my franchisee. So I was his manager, but I operate this store. He's never here. So really, I am the face of Daytona Beach, and the owner that owned this center before I did was an older man. And a lot of the customers would come in. They wanted to meet the new owner because we said we were under new ownership. So I would come out and I would meet people, and they were definitely shocked that it was a woman. And then I remember one time I had two customers on the front counter, and it was right when we first opened. Gentleman comes in, and I finished with the customer, and he asked me, if my husband owned the business. I said, no, my business partner is a good friend of mine, and explained to him the story. And he was like kind of done with me talking. He was like very rushed, and I could tell. So I was ready, I was going to help him out. He's like, all right, grab your crayon and write this down. He's giving me like a credit card or something like this. And I remember just thinking, gosh, if it was a young looking male, by the way, I'm not that young, I'm 38. Okay. But if I was a young looking male, would he have said, grab the crayon and write this down? He would never have said that. He probably would have been like, oh, how exciting that you have this opportunity, right? So
yeah, you're doing such a great job. You're, yeah.
But we see it all the time. I mean, I'm sure for you guys, how many times does a woman go to sit at a conference table or sit around the table when we actually have the opportunity to do so, and somebody will say something like, wow, you're really pretty, or you're very beautiful, or I was hoping to talk to this person, but you're much nicer to look at. Would they say that to a man?
That's a valid point. Yeah.
I mean, really think about that.
No, I mean, you bring up a really good point. I don't think, that's something that is interjected into daily I mean, maybe the men do want to hear that. I'm not too sure, but I don't, I don't know.
You want to hear that? Let's ask guys. The guys that are watching, do you want to hear us say those things?
Right. Like, should we be calling you pretty or, but yeah, no, I agree with you. There are, there are plenty of comments or times that you hear like, oh, you're easy on the eyes or something like that. It's like, thank you. I do have other skills as well. So that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel like as women that, I mean, we already know that I would say we're the face of the majority of social issues that we see globally and around the world. I mean, really, when we start talking about social issues, with the exception of sexual orientation, that really kind of takes that out. But really, social injustice, we take that out. That has no gender. But then we start talking about child marriage, domestic violence, sexual abuse, all these social issues that we, sexual harassment, right? So when we're talking about in the workplace, There's statistics that a third of young women, 18 to 34, say that they have been harassed at work. So they are really women facing issues, and they still are today, even though I think sometimes we get so caught up in that we're where we're at. And I do appreciate that as a community and as a country and I can't say globally because I still feel like women's issues globally are just so far behind that we're still dealing with all this very real stuff. And then you add the professional part of that, and it still seems like the majority of these things that are happening in the workplace are women facing issues. Do you guys agree, or is there a different perspective, maybe something I'm not seeing?
I want to say, I feel like it's, for me, I feel, first of all, Victoria, if I was to run into you in a store and you told me you were an attorney and I had my daughter with you, I think it's very telling that in my mind, my first thing that in my mind would be to put my daughter in front of you and say, Alana, this is attorney Victoria Zinn, this attorney Zinn, and have you become in that second a role model of what my daughter can look at to become. When I see a female police officer, I want my daughter right away. Alana, this is who you could be, because it's so telling to me that we don't think that way. There's often that women are considered unusual to be an attorney or to be in the workplace. And I want to raise my daughter to know that she can do and be anything she wants and not have her gender be the issue. So like my first thought, I just wanted to share that with you in talking.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you. I think the fact that the role models are, even if you do know somebody that you would want your daughter to grow up to be, it's certainly not everybody you come in contact with. You have to think of, okay, I'm going to consciously make the decision to introduce my daughter to this role model. So I think the fact that you sort of have to think about all your friends and what they do, and sort of flip through your Rolodex. I know I'm probably dating myself, although whatever. Anyhow, I don't know if they had Rolodexes when I was, yes. But the fact that you're flipping through your Rolodex and you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't want her to think she can stop there. Let's go higher. The fact that that should be something that parents are putting in the minds of their children from a very young age. If you think you can do this, what's one step farther, right? So if you want to, in my industry, if you want to be a paralegal, why not try law school? Just give it a try, and I think that that's something that should be encouraged. You can only limit yourself, and I think women specifically need to know that by putting a limitation on themselves in their profession or deciding their profession. I have to be a nurse because everyone expects me to be a nurse, so I'll probably start nursing school. It just doesn't make any sense, and it's not fulfilling. It's certainly not fulfilling. There always will be something on the other side of that. So I think the more times that we can demonstrate to younger women, like, hey, there's, give it a go. If it doesn't work, okay, that's okay too, but the fact that they need to understand that they can absolutely shoot for the highest possible position they could think of. And then whatever happens after that, if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be, but at least they'll find happiness, which is huge.
I like that. And Carmen, so I apologize. I kind of streamed you off the path, but what was your question?
I forgot what was the last question. This was good conversation. This can be candid. It doesn't matter to me.
I will say though, I recall looking at, I recall going on my first like really large industry board. And I remember that I really didn't want to be nominated, because if I got nominated, then I had to go for the vote, and I didn't want to go for the vote. And I remember that I was approached by the executive director who said, you really don't have a choice. We need you. And I said, me? She said, well, we need a female. We need to have a female because, and I said, oh, well, I'm up for the job. I mean, but that was, and, because you do, it's nerve wracking. So if you have a board of 12 men and there's a seat at a table and now you're nominated, but now you got to have the vote in, and you're being voted against another male, I think I won very easily, but honestly, to this day, I'm not sure if I won because I was going to be a female face on the board or because I was strong enough in what I know in the industry to sit on the board. I don't know, because I didn't really walk around and ask everyone why you voted for me.
That would have been weird.
But it makes me look like, so Carmen, for yourself and for Victoria, when you look at even just like taking a look at certain boards, or when you pick up a magazine and you look at the magazine, you look at the different makeup of the board, it really kind of comes out as a big sore thumb. Wait a second, there's 13 on the board and 2 females. What is the reason for that? Is it me or do you see that too?
No, I would say that's pretty common. I would say that the majority of the boards that I sit on or organizations are very heavy on the male side. I would say that the only one that I sit on today that is very much equal, and I'm glad that it is the domestic violence shelter, so the Beacon Center. I was surprised when I joined that board that there was as many male voices as there were on that board, and I was actually extremely pleased with that, because I feel like when we talk about women's issues, we continue to say women's issues, but the reality are that they're community issues. They're not women's issues. They're not just mine. They're your daughters and they're your nieces and my nieces and they're my neighbors. And so I was very pleased that it was a very diverse board as far as gender went. But yes, for the most part, most of the professional boards that I sit on are on the high end of male.
Yeah,
very much. And sometimes I do wonder, like for me, especially because I'm Hispanic, am I the token Hispanic girl or am I the token, woman, But I also like to think that we're at a point, and at least the boards I sit on, I feel like there is enough women leadership in especially in Volusia County. I have to say, Volusia County has amazing women leaders. And we can even talk about the regional chamber, which we're all a part of, and how our connection comes to be, having Nancy as, the president of the chamber and the CEO. She's an amazing woman in leadership and is very pro-woman. So, even though she's a lot of men on that board, she very much very well represents women in leadership and women in business. And we look at some of the other, the Team Volusia and some of the other chambers here that have women CEOs. Orange Chamber, Holly Hill Chamber just hired an executive director that's a woman. So, I don't know. Here, I feel like it's a little bit different, but I do know what you're saying. As far as the boards go, it is very high as far as male participation.
Very true. I totally agree with you.
They've been very well to me. I have to say, as far as professional goes, here, I can't say that I've experienced in any of the groups that I've been a part of anything that makes me feel uncomfortable as a woman at all. That's not what I've experienced in the past.
Have you watched or witnessed anything? So good. I'm glad that you haven't experienced anything, and I would say the same. But have I been witness to behavior that has given me double take, made me wonder, made me question, made me uncomfortable? Yes.
I would say, more things that happen here in my center, as far as like how I see men interact with some of my female employees, even some employees that have had issues in the past with those kinds of things. But as far as the business world, now, if we're talking about social interaction versus at a board table, I think we're still at a place where we still need to talk about those boundaries. Adrienne did a one-on-one. What was the young lady's name, the doctor's name that you did the one-on-one?
Dr. Laura McGuire.
It was a great conversation. They're talking about, how we have all these different generations in the workplace today. Well, a male, 45 and plus, is probably still okay putting his hands on my shoulders, or even culturally as a Hispanic woman, I'm still very much a hugger, and I can't do that with my staff, but I understand that I can't do that with my staff. But sometimes you see some interactions that you're just like, you can tell people are uncomfortable. The millennials, the generations that are coming up after us are going, that's not socially acceptable.
Right.
Chick is not socially acceptable anymore. Like there's things that we just shouldn't say to women. I will say I had a situation where I was talking to a political candidate, and he made a comment about, I walked into the room and he said, "Hello, sweet." And it was about and in a room with 25 other people. And, this was only a couple years ago. And I thought to myself, wow, like, number one, I wanted to stand up for myself, but I was so embarrassed. And then I felt like I had done something wrong. Like my shirt was too low. And I thought afterwards, when I reevaluated the situation, socially, that's not acceptable. But for him, in his group of people, that was totally acceptable. And I see stuff like that all the time where people often will grab and hug and just, you're like, oh, that's a second too long. And I can see women that just feel uncomfortable with that kind of interaction, and they don't feel like they have the power of voice to say, hey, can you just not hug me? Because they feel like they're being rude.
Right. I totally agree with you. Victoria, I'm just going to say 1 second, and I want to hear what you have to say. But I really, really feel, and I've been in those shoes because I was actually younger and cuter at one point. But
you're beautiful. Stop.
I really feel that I remember often being in this situation, and I'm almost embarrassed to say this, but I didn't want to lose the business. I didn't want to lose the money. I didn't want to lose, when I was with Muscular Dystrophy Association, I didn't want to have anyone feel uncomfortable that I was with MD. I didn't want anything to hurt what I was there for. So I would actually let it slide, and it would bother me. And then the sad part is I always remember that person. I already have a strong elephant memory. So, 20 years later, I would see him at a trade show, and I'm like, oh, you're the one. Like, I remember you. You're the one that did this, and this. So it's a lasting feeling, but I can understand it would be very hard to guide someone or to say to another woman, well, and, me of all people standing up and speaking out, but I wouldn't say, Victoria, you got to stand up and speak out and tell them no, because you also got to make a living. And it's got to play a little bit somewhere. And I may be wrong, but I know I was hindered by that the fact that I didn't want anyone to turn around and say, oh, well, I won't ever buy from her again. That was always a scare for me.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you. I just wanted to make a, sort of comment as to that. The fact that you have to almost carry yourself in a more assertive manner in order to be off-putting in an effort to prevent that is almost counterintuitive altogether. You think about it when you're in a social environment, we go to the chamber thing, for example. If you're at a chamber thing and you carry yourself in a manner that makes you, by and large, slightly off-putting. You have the face, we all know what face I'm talking about, where you accidentally look slightly unapproachable.
Is that what you're talking about? I feel like I can say that. I'll say it.
So, if you carry yourself in a certain way whereby people understand that that's not something that you'll accept and that's just not behavior that you're willing to allow, it's great for you because you actually avoid sexual assault and violence, but at the same time, you're also being extremely off-putting and potentially causing people not to approach you, people that would be otherwise great, excellent business partners, or, you could work with them in the future. The fact that you actually have to carry yourself in a manner that demonstrates, I'm not for hugging, I'm not, the fact that you actually have to give that aura off is, a whole, you don't see that for men. You don't see them having to carry themselves in a way where they are like, don't come up to me, don't talk to me, they don't carry themselves in that way because it's not a problem. So you also have to sort of look at that as well as something that affects business.
Let me ask you this. Do you guys feel like, because we are talking about those social interactions again, those social settings, and we're going to be in them again very soon, and maybe this is an opportunity to really kind of say, like, what our expectations are as women. I know for me, I don't mind if someone comes up and kind of gives me like a side hug, but sometimes I feel like men come up and give me a full embrace, full hug. That for me, that's very intimate, right? And a kiss on the cheek, even though I'm a Hispanic woman, that's something that's very common for us. I really don't want to kiss your face. Like, unless you're honest, like, I don't want to take your face. I don't want to embrace you fully. I mean, it's just, to me, that's not a professional setting situation. Now, if we've gone beyond the business setting and we're at a happy hour and we've got that kind of friendship that's gone beyond that, I feel like women will let you know if it's okay to embrace them, or to kind of, I feel like tell me if I'm wrong. I just feel like the standard is, if you're going to embrace me from the side. And if this is the second time you've met me, please don't touch me.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, to all of that. Yes.
I want to answer as the etiquette educator in the room. But first, I want to say, when I when I moved to Tucson, Arizona, it was the first time that there was, and I'll never forget it, because she was absolutely stunning woman who worked for a hotel, and we were at an event. It was great, and they were coming around to take pictures. And she said, she quickly hit her face. I said, "What's wrong?" She said, "I can't have pictures taken on me. There's too many stalkers, too many people. I can't be on LinkedIn. I can't have a Facebook." And I was like, it made me realize, oh my God, so she's unable, and she wasn't the only one. From that point, there was like 5 other women. Now, I never really actually saw that in like recently or in Orlando when I lived in the Celebration area, but that was a concern for them, that because of their look and how pretty they are, they were being approached. Now, the other day, someone did say to me that they could not have a LinkedIn profile because they are consistently receiving too many off-candid remarks, and it's a constant, "Hi, beautiful," and it's just driving them crazy. So I just wanted to bring that up there. I also want to make one other point. This kind of hit me. I actually think I raised my hand like the 5-year-old that has to go to the bathroom, please. Because, you know why? Because serving in that board that I was originally on, where there was a lot of men, the only way to be heard was to raise my hand, so I got counted. And then because otherwise the men would really talk. And I'm going to just be honest with you. As a young girl growing up and serving on boards, I was really surprised that men talk a lot more than women. I mean, they make a point, and then they make that point like 100 more times that point while talking about everything else. And I thought, wow, I thought women were kind of like that, but we're really not. We're to the point. I don't know if you see that, but men tend to, I don't know, but a little research on how men talk a lot. But anyways, okay, so.
I thought the statistic was interesting. It said 42% of men believe that it is acceptable to expect or ask for an intimate relationship with a coworker or employee. 42%.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? 42% think that that's okay.
Yeah.
Say, hey, that's tonight, can we go have some drinks and go to your room?
or extended outside of work. I don't know if it's necessarily a sexual relationship, but that it's interesting. Like, and so from what I'm understanding from that, a relationship outside of the workplace, whether that goes somewhere else, but they feel comfortable asking that question of, "Hey, would you like to have a drink with me?" Probably because men are hunters anyways. So men have been taught to select versus us selecting, which is a whole other gender role, right? So Victoria is single, I'm single, right? We've been told all of our lives, tell me if I'm wrong, that one day somebody will come along and they will deem us, special enough to make us a life partner, whether it's, somebody will deem us good enough, I guess, you know what I mean? So that's kind of a gender role, because maybe not me. I feel like I have a list and I'm very picky. I don't know about you, but I like, it's okay for men to select us. So that's probably why that's so high if you really think about it, because they're always on the hunt.
I sort of was thinking about it, as you were talking too. At the same time, I don't know if it's maybe the way that times are changing now, but if you think about it, people aren't going out, and doing, they're not going like dancing. Like there used to be like jazz clubs where you could go dance, there used to be other ways to meet people. So I don't know how much of that is simply like, now people just meet each other at work and they're done. I don't know where people meet people, but I'm thinking like maybe people are saying to themselves, guys are saying to themselves, okay, well, I work my, 45, 50 hours a week. The only people that these gentlemen see are their coworkers. So maybe at some point it just becomes a natural progression of things. 42% is disturbing. I truly hope it's just a natural progression of people meeting people, but yikes.
Well, here's another one. This is a global one. This is from South America. South America, women in rural areas work on an average of 23 hours per week longer than men do.
I can believe that too, if they're looking at work in the home too, because I would definitely consider that any kind of work in the home would be considered work. I mean, does it say that it's work outside the home?
Work outside the home.
It does say that? Oh, sorry. Wow. To make up for the difference in pay?
It doesn't specify, but it does say here, here's a U.S. one, more than 50% of women report having been sexually harassed at work. 50% of your colleagues.
It's horrible to watch too. It's an awful thing to have going on because, and it's funny because Dr. Laura McGuire and I had that conversation. It was really a great one because she was really explaining that first of all, the sexual misconduct in the workplace affects everyone, and it affects the morale, it affects a profit margin. I mean, there's no area that it doesn't reflect, and you're really hurting yourself. And so the only way to really stop it is by education and making sure that everyone, both male and female, are educated on what to do. Like, so for instance, a bracing, if you're a man or a woman and you're going up to someone, it's really important to have a mindset of knowing what you can or cannot do. So when we get back in the workplace, you really want to have a mindset that I can't run up to everyone and give them a hug, or I can't run up and give them a handshake, that I have to ask that question. If there is someone that's coming towards you and you feel uncomfortable, you can take a step back and you kind of could go like this, or, just, kind of put your hand up a little bit. I mean, you could go like this if you needed to, because because right now, I mean, even during flu season, you want to be very careful of who you're touching and kissing and all of that. So I think, but you could do it. Some people are like, no, back up. But I would just kind of use your gesture to make it a little softer. Mm-hmm. That, and taking that step back will help. So take it away, Victoria.
I just on that note, I have learned that I carry a clutch with me to a lot of networking events. And if I see someone coming up to me and they're, rapidly approaching, you can tell they're going in for a hug or whatever they think they're going in for. I go, oh, shoot, can you hold this? And I hand them my clutch, which has literally nothing but my business cards in it. And I start immediately texting because that's like, here, hold this. Oh, sorry, I have to respond to a message. And then when you take it back, you sort of just walk away. Crisis averted.
It reminds me of something that my mom used to make us do. We grew up, our adolescent years was in Miami. So my mom used to give us a safety pin, those big safety pins. And we used to carry the safety pin on our clothes somewhere, right? And in Miami, there's a lot of crowds. So men grab and touch and just, I mean, you're from down south, Adrienne, right?
I lived in Apertura for 3 years. Yeah,
I've been there. Yeah, I've been.
Right. Well, not just like festivals, but she used to have us walk around with these pins, and we used to have them in school too. But so we used to have like the safety pin on the inside. So when guys would get crazy like that, we would open up the safety pin. And,
oh, I love that. Oh, sorry, that was
okay.
That's funny.
Wow. So you ever have to go to a place where it's like, I don't know that that's so much something that happens now. But at 13 and 14 years old in Miami, it felt like it was intense. I mean, even the cat calls, it's just a totally different culture. And, even down to like cat calling, if you really think about what that is and how that makes you feel as a woman, you know what I mean? But in Miami, you would go to like the little Bravo supermarket and there was like a ton of men just standing outside. So you had to walk through. I used to call it the walk of shame. To walk through all these men to get into the store, and they would just sit outside the store and catcall on women. Any of my friends that are watching this from Miami will tell you that this is the truth. Okay, I'm not lying. I'm dead serious. So you said that about the clutch, and I'm sitting here thinking that my mom used to make us walk around with the safety pin. These men that would try and grow.
I love that. I want to just say that, I really think twice about doing business with any, and usually it is someone of the opposite sex, but that's all the time. But when you're with someone and then they have their eye on someone else that catches their eye, and next thing you know, you're having a conversation and they're not even paying attention to you. And that happens a lot. It feels like sometimes where, maybe just to me, but where it's so blatant that you could see that they're Googling, what's that word? But not Googling, like really Googling, but like, I can't even Google that word.
Ogling,
or
we'll get there.
And someone else while they're having, I think that in business, it's really important to stay focused on who you're talking to and not let the distraction of someone else. I've been with women too, where all of a sudden we're having business. And I was like, oh my God. So we got to be careful of that.
Yeah.
I've
never seen a woman do that.
That's terrifying. So there's
horrible.
that.
Bring a little lighthearted. True.
So let's talk a little bit about the social issues that, we were talking earlier that, obviously we have all these things to contend with. And then we talk about social issues in our community that really a very large majority of them are women facing issues. I can talk for like the Beacon Center being on that board and, domestic violence still being something that is, it's definitely a number one issue, I think, that we're not really talking about. When we look really at how domestic violence affects, our homes locally, it's sad when we talk about the most dangerous place for a woman to be is at home. And yet our social standard is that you are a woman of the house before you are anything else. So, really to kind of break that down, right? I think that I think society still looks at women in business something very nice, like they're like, that's great that she's there, but they do expect women to still be the face of the household, and yet the reality is that it's still the most dangerous place for a woman to be. So how do we start to talk about these things where we take, stereotypes and we take all of the social standards that we know and kind of start to break down those walls? Is it conversations like this? Do you feel like men are listening? Do you feel like these are conversations men should be having versus us?
Oh.
Yeah, I think a lot of times it's just not a recognized issue. Men just don't recognize it as an issue. They think, for me, I went to law school with plenty of men. They all went to law school too, so that's from their perspective. Great, we all graduated. Now we all have jobs, so it's never really much of a consideration. So yeah, it certainly would be important to have that as a part of the dialogue, just because some people may watch this and think, whoa, yeah, no, I have seen women harassed, or I have seen, and it's just bringing the issue to light, which is really quite important. Reminding people that it's still an issue. There's plenty of other issues in the world, and sometimes they get swept under the rug while we're all focused, the whole world's focused on another issue. Right now we have a lot of race issues, we have a lot of COVID issues, we have political issues, we have, you name it, we're having that type of issue. So I think a lot of people are, the natural human reaction is to triage. So a longstanding women's rights issue, of course, would go all the way down to the bottom of that triage list, because the natural human reaction to seeing issues like COVID is, well, now that's the issue, without realizing it's not the issue, it is an issue. and so I think, reprioritizing a lot of those issues is important.
So actually, Victoria is really saying exactly what Dr. Laura was saying, is that it really has to start with education. And if you could get, every staff has to be educated to understand and to look for and to know how to handle sexual misconduct in the workplace, and, a bullying in the workplace, mobbing in the workplace, treating each other difficult in the workplace, and also understanding that to look for the signs of domestic violence. Also, just as an example, if all three of us were in the hospitality industry and all three of us worked in hotels, we would be trained on how to look for the situation of human trafficking. And we would then know how to make sure to find, both females and males that could be possibly trafficked. So I think, to me, it's really the education, because often if a woman is earning money and still is being abused at home, usually it's not in places that can be seen. She may have stayed up all night long being held at gunpoint and then expected to work all day. And she may need an outlet. So I think it's really important that companies have an HR department, have the ability for someone to be able to speak out and ask for help or offer EAP services, right? Employee assistant programs, services, so that, because often that maybe all you have is your workplace to reach out to say, I need help, and to even find some resources.
Absolutely. And for you not to feel like it's going to affect your job. So even in the midst of COVID-19, just, because like you said, now that's the issue, right? So COVID-19 being an issue and looking at, the working mom working remote, or even some of them are working back in their businesses or in their jobs, and they have children that still have to go to school remote. And I mean, it is very challenging. And I do think that for the most part, women are expected to kind of solve that problem or be the head of that household issue, right? So I have plenty of friends that are married, and I feel like for the most part, the majority of those women are the ones falling into place going, okay, this is what we've got to do. I've got to move this around. I've got to get this done. Hey, can you do this in order to get this? And, it's an issue that, again, I feel like it's a woman facing issue. Even though it's a COVID-19 global pandemic, it affects every single one of us. But again, it's like it's a woman's issue to resolve because it's a home issue. It's a school issue. Do you guys feel that way? I don't have kids, so I can't say that I am experiencing that. I bring my babies to work every single day. So
I've seen a lot of my colleagues experience something similar. Luckily, a lot of the hearings and everything are taking place on Zoom now, so it makes it a little bit easier for some of my colleagues who are, dealing with similar situations. But at the same time, there are some of the law firms where their internal policy is, leave the kids, come to work. And so I've seen some of my colleagues struggle with that quite a bit. They're expected to sort of set the kids up on Zoom to do school and whatnot, and just hope they stay on Zoom, which kids just don't do that. So it certainly is an interesting time. And, I think if COVID was something that we had experienced in the past, or if we'd even experienced something similar, there may be things that would be set up, or, stuff in place that would give that outlet where kids could, maybe the public library has a program or something. But I know that a little bit of it may be just the unexpected nature, but at this point, we're going now into a whole nother semester of school, right? So this wasn't a surprise. We saw a month ago that COVID wasn't going away. They had a month to put together resources for the parents that don't stay home, and don't really have that option. They had a whole month to do it. And, now they're sending out surveys, a week before school started today. So it went out a week or 2 weeks ago saying, do you want your kid to go back to brick and mortar, or should they, to the Zoom school or whatever they're calling it now? And then you're sort of left to choose, okay, so then do I sacrifice my career and I don't go to work and make sure that the kids are on Zoom? Or do I decide that they're going to go back to brick and mortar and hopefully don't get sick? So, it's not a good option for anyone. Really, it's not very well thought out at all.
Victoria, sorry, Carmen.
No, go ahead.
So you handle probate law, which is fantastic. So you see a lot of what's taking place. Well, not the divorce, but no, actually, let me just, because probate law is a little different. But to me, a lot of this is that we want to teach our children to marry someone that treats you fairly, that understands equity. Like my husband can't find the kitchen, and I'm in a little small little place, but he won't cook. He just can't. He's not good at it. And I'm like, I should be on the fake, lazy cook show because I'm not great either. But the point is that, I make him take out the garbage. When I buy water, I make him carry up the water a couple cases at a time to prove how strong he is. And so sometimes, we do, at least at my age, we do look at what you're good at and what you're not good at and what he's good at. And so I think it's really important too, to make sure that you're marrying a partner and not just a spouse, and that partner and you work together. And that's why I really think, counseling beforehand, having all of this discussion so that you are kind of prepared. Well, what if a pandemic hits? What if the kids get sick? What do we do? Those are questions that really could be answered in the beginning, right? So that you really know. And I was, and also understanding that we are all humans. I was in one of the webinars about 2 months ago, and a woman had said, well, I have to have my office and the kids know not to bother me. And if they knock on the door, they'll get in trouble. And I thought, that's not maybe the best thing either, because you don't want your child to be so close to you and then not be able to talk with you. And that, should we really have that, door, whether it's invisible or not, a door that says, I'm over here working now, so I can't be a mother either. And how do you blend them together to make sure? And I think to me, it's all about what we're doing right now. Conversations with your partner, conversations with your place of work. And also I'm going to add the sugar on top is going to be speaking up for yourself.
Absolutely. I think, I feel like we should be grateful that we're in a time where women have the power of voice, I mean, we haven't had that for so long. And I'm going to share, Adrienne and I went to the beach recently, and her daughter was with us. So I'm going to share this because you're here. And I asked her, I said, hey, what would you like? And there was some sweets and some stuff. And she was like, oh, whatever you want me to have. And I was like, no, Mama, what would you like? And she was like, oh, whatever, and I said, no, get up, come over here and take what you want. Because and I think I told her in that moment, I was like, you have the power to pick. You have the power of voice that I didn't have when I was 13 years old or 16 years old. I just didn't. That was not a thing. I mean, I have the most amazing parents, let me say that. But culturally, right, we were always told, sit until we tell you to get up. Don't go to the rooms unless we tell you that it's okay to go. We give you what we give you. You eat what's on the table, and that's what we eat. And I'm not saying that was bad, but really subconsciously what that does is that takes away your power of voice and your power of selection. I think it's really important for women to teach, for me, my nieces, for the young women that you have in your lives, and for the women that we mentor, even now, women our ages still don't feel like they have the power of voice because they're so stuck where they are generationally. Women have the power of voice and the power of selection. We're not here to be selected, and we're not here to be talked for. We have the ability to say, hey, this is a great idea, and I want to bring that to the table. I want to have a conversation about women's issues, and we should, even if it makes us uncomfortable, let's be comfortable being uncomfortable and talking about things that provoke conversations, that provoke change and impact our communities. We can do that. It doesn't have to be men. We can do that. We have the power to do that. So I don't know where I was going with that, but that
I thought I loved you before, but now I'm madly in love with you. That was so beautiful that I see a lot of memes with your face, and you've just got a lot of quotes right there. That was really beautiful, Carmen. But you made me realize when you're talking about Alana that Alana has a cute thing that she does, and now she wants me to do it with her, where she gets demure and she goes like this, and it's something that what is that from, Alana? You want to come on, do it on right here? You want to do it right
she's
here on
so
stage?
precious. And if you haven't met Alana is adorable.
Around and do it. Just come around and okay. So she's really shy, and I'm not gonna.
She
So,
is shy.
but here's the thing: we haven't even started talking about social media and what the kids are seeing. So you can either say no social media at all, get off all platforms, or protect them in such a way because they are witnessing a lot of, and it's not just kids being kids. There's a lot of adults doing crazy things too, and there's a lot of, very vivacious, clothing that they're wearing. I mean, it's all for the fan, right? The follower.
Mm-hmm.
TikTok and Instagram. So it makes me nervous too because we can have all this conversation, but we are growing another culture coming up that like for instance, photos. So take a snapshot. So do you have any friends that any picture that they show of themselves on Facebook have been put through a filter?
Yeah.
Yes.
I know once in a while we all use a filter, but I'm saying every single photo, everyone, to the point where there was a conversation about, do you really see yourself or do you see yourself as you are in the filter?
It's a good question. I don't use that many filters anymore. I used to though. Right after my marriage, I would say when I first got Snapchat, I felt like I looked so much more attractive with a filter on, but I didn't love myself very much. Now I've learned to love myself in my thick skin and my dark skin so now I don't use as many filters because I'm like, you know what? This is Carmen. This is who Carmen's going to be. I'm imperfect in the most perfect way that I can be. So I think that's important. And, you're probably right because most of the filters that you see are they're not just cat ears and stuff. I mean, they're like perfecting your skin, taking away your blemishes, changing your eye color. You know what I mean? It kind of under your face a little bit. I don't know if you've noticed. There's a couple of Snapchats that change the shape of your face.
I like filters, but Alana had a friend where the mother never showed any picture of her child unless the child was out of filter. So they were always so.
Oh.
And then you start seeing yourself. So there was a time that Alana just used filters too, and I remember thinking, is that how she sees herself? Because she's looking at her picture, going, "Oh," and it made me think, do you get that feeling? Like, is life a filter for all of us, or can you? So I just want to throw that out there that part of the conversation in the future as we go on is how can we make sure that we communicate with our children? Do we just take away social media and all kind of technology? Or do we allow them to have it, but teach them so they can actually say, ooh, that video is kind of wrong, or ooh, that showed a lot. Or maybe we could start a movement where actually have, brilliant, smart, creative videos showing females that don't necessarily shows, boobs, butts, and lips and brows.
Just to clarify, because I think this is important as well, are you saying like the cognitive dissonance between what they're seeing on the actual filtered photo versus what they're seeing in the mirror? You're saying it's generating like a bit of a cognitive distance between, like, there's just such a discrepancy, so then they become unhappy with what's in the mirror, and then it sort of changes everything? Is that because I could talk about the psychology of all of that for a whole entire day, but I do think that having the filters so readily available and used by so many figures that a lot of younger women are looking up to, people that are models or they're just physically extremely attractive people, you know, and so people are looking up to them just for that alone. They don't, you know, if you ask a 12-year-old girl what the Victoria's Secret model's major was in college, the answer will be, I don't know, modeling, you know, something like that. So it's not, the fact that this is what they're looking up to and then this is what their role models are doing, I think plays a huge role in that as well. So there certainly needs to be a dialogue in every home. Maybe it's up to us in the community to have this dialogue with kids. Maybe it's not as easy for the parents to say, but at the same time, I think it needs to be, address the fact that a filter doesn't change your intelligence. It doesn't change how hard you work. It doesn't change, you're awesome at soccer or baseball or it doesn't change that. And really and truly, the idea of a filter is just changing your personal appearance. And I think there are too many young females that put too much stock in that. The filter changes their personal appearance. So now they're this perfect person, completely leaving out the fact this kid is going to graduate with a full scholarship to go to, a really reputable college, and they're basing their self-worth on the filtered photos because that's what their role models are doing. And that's, that they're developing in their head a difference between what they physically look like and what their photos look like.
That's interesting. So this could actually start a whole other conversation, but I think it's so I can be very conservative, but then on the other end of that, there are some social things that I'm not as conservative in, and women's sexuality is one of those things. Being comfortable with your sexuality is something that I am a big voice for, because I think sometimes what happens is when people see a woman, because and tell me if I'm going way off here, but the only thing that concerns me about those kinds of conversations is that we take the power of sexuality away from women and start to give it to men again, where sexuality is for men. So women that physically take good care of themselves, or that are provocative women, because that is a thing, right? So if you're a provocative woman and you are comfortable in your skin, regardless of your shape and size, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a good thing. And I think if you want to take a seductive picture or provocative picture, depending the content, I think that's okay, because there is power in sexuality. And I think for us women, that has been something that is very taboo, and something that is almost like it's for men. So when we look at it like it's for men, now suddenly we take the physicality of ourselves and what we love about ourselves and make it for somebody else instead of for us. So I think in that conversation, it is, okay, be perfect in your skin. Feel comfortable in your skin. Feel comfortable in your sexuality, whatever that is. It may be modest. I know that Adrienne says, I'm a prude. I don't even like when you say that, because the thing is, you are Adrienne and you are comfortable with yourself in your box. My box may look totally different than yours, and it may make somebody else totally uncomfortable, but I shouldn't have to change my box because I'm comfortable with how I portray myself, or my sexuality, or being provocative or not being provocative. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say? Maybe the words aren't all there, but like the filters are a totally different thing. But like a lot of times people will use like the Kardashians. I don't know too much about the Kardashians, okay, but they will use them as an example of, filtered pictures and just this and that and this. But then there's this whole other side of these women that people don't talk about, the business aspect of what they do and the leaders that they are in their community and how they impact their communities in positive ways. So I think it's really, really important that if a woman is uber sexual and provocative, that she still has the same power of voice and change that we do sitting here in our offices, modest or whatever. Wherever we land, it shouldn't matter. I could be wrong.
No, I agree with you. I will tell you that as a mother of a daughter that has, an outrageous little figure, she's so cute. And every time I say that, I got to say, you're smart. But when Alana puts on a pair of shorts or wears this incredible bikini I got her at the surf shop, I never say don't wear it, or oh my God, your butt is showing, or those are too short, because if she wants to wear it, it's not really fair to have her put her clothes on because she has to worry about what someone else is thinking about her. So I totally agree with you on that. And it's not, you shouldn't change who you are. If that's what you like to, if you want to, sometimes she just likes to wear a pair of shorts. That's totally, I don't say as a mother, you have to have, because I know she has some friends where like the mother's like, you can't wear a bikini. I'm not going to let you wear a bikini till 16. I'm not that mom, but I will tell you that it is what Victoria said about the filter is more to me like what it's doing to the mind. When I was growing up, I actually was fairly old. I remember being around 30, 35 when I found out, and this is so embarrassing to even say this. I feel like I want to hide my face.
No.
I never realized that like the magazines, like People's Magazines and Us Good Housekeeping, that there was something where they airbrushed the faces. And so I was in a meeting one day and they said, do you think that these are real? And they were showing pictures. And I'm like, of course it's real. They take a picture of Julia Roberts and she looks like this. And they're like, she's airbrushed. And I'm like, no, she's not. And it was like everything I thought I knew that day was like, wow, like she's airbrushed. So she's not like 100% perfect. And that's the only thing with the filters that, and when they see a filter on someone that they, filters once in a while are great. I'm not saying, because I'll use a filter once in a while, but it's when you think that, oh my God, I have these wrinkles, or, oh, I need to change, or, oh, I'm not that perfect, or whatever it may be. You worry about weight issues. You worry about becoming anorexia or becoming bulimia because of the stress that's put on of having to be a certain way. I think that's what I'm trying to say is just that way. And then I love what Victoria is saying is, but we're also not looking at the backbone of who these people are and how we can teach them. Because honestly, the Kardashians, I can't remember which one, is one of the wealthy, like she has a beautiful makeup line. And Kim Kardashian does a lot of wonderful things for people that are that are accused, in jail, that she tries to that are innocent. So she works a lot of innocent projects. Yeah, she does a lot. There's a lot of celebrities, a lot of just regular people that do a lot of great things that we really need to work on. I mean, it would be nice to every time you see someone to have, instead of what they do for a living, what they do for their community. That would be a neat little thing too. But I just want to say that I don't want to direct my daughter that she can't wear something because you can't wear those shorts. Why, Mom? They fit me beautifully. Because some guy's going to be looking at you and hoping that he could, whatever. I don't want to be that mom either.
I mean, and I think the reality is that those are conversations that have to be had. And I think it's really important. I'm not against modesty by no means. I think modesty is important. I think there's a time and a place for all of that, right? So I do think as you're raising your children, you do need to raise your children with caution, right? But then in that same respect, we do need to raise men to understand, we see it a lot like in the school debate about uniforms, right? So talk about spaghetti straps and like, I get it. It becomes like a political issue where instead of we start talking about humanitarian issues and issues that are community issues of teaching men that we're in Florida, if a woman wears a spaghetti strap, like that's not
it's like 100 degrees out.
It's not an invitation for you to comment on her shoulders or her chest. It's just not an invitation. I think the idea that we have to somehow censor women in a way that we've not censored men to protect society is so ridiculous. To me, it is. I don't have children. I have 6 nieces that I love and adore, and they're all different shapes and sizes and different colors, and they've got these beautiful little bodies. And my sisters make sure that they're modest because they're young. It's important. They want to protect their children. I think that's important. We have to be wise. But I think it's really important that the narrative starts changing. We need to start changing the narrative away from spaghetti straps and distractions to how we treat humans and how we treat women and what the expectation is of interaction between men and women if they feel like you're attractive. Because then that means every single one of us is at risk of all of the issues that we've talked about. Because sometime in our life, a man is going to think that you're attractive. Does that mean that he now can stalk you? That he can send you inappropriate pictures online? That happens to me all the time. And a lot of the times when I tell them, hey, you know what? I'm not looking for that. They will say, well, I saw that picture of you in a bathing suit. No crap. I live on the beach. You're going to see a lot of pictures of me in a bathing suit. That doesn't mean that I am inviting you to suddenly send me something that was unwanted or unasked for because you are uncomfortable, or maybe you like my provocative, the provocative side of me. But that's not why I put it out there. It's because I'm comfortable with myself. So I think the conversations that we have about these issues for women, I'm passionate about it, obviously, is important because regardless of what we're wearing today, right? So right now I'm in jeans, I'm in a tank top, I've got something over. You know, if I'm in a suit one day, or if I'm in a dress, or if I'm in a bathing suit, level of respect that anyone should give me should be the same regardless of what I have on. Regardless of if I have a drink, regardless if it shouldn't matter. My gender should not matter. If a man can have 3 drinks at a bar, he should be treated no different than a woman that has 3 drinks at a bar. Now, whether or not individually we think that's okay, your definition of lady is going to be different for every woman, every culture, how does my culture define a lady? How does your culture define that? But the reality is, in order for us to make an impact globally, we need to take all of that out, and we need to say, regardless of the shell, what you have on and what you don't have on, we still need to respect women. And it doesn't suddenly give men this window to treat us any different than they would a woman that was walking out of the grocery store with a sweater and sweats.
Exactly.
So yeah.
You're making a great point, and I think that it's time for men, and a lot of this is a lot of baby boomers, I think, have this feeling that they really haven't evolved to understand and to respect women. And what concerns me is then they raise their children, and then their young sons, and then their sons grow up and feel that this is exactly the way that they could treat a woman. Right. Mm-hmm. I mean, if the father is seen cheating on his significant other, what is the young boy thinking? And is the risk more that he would actually cheat on his wife? Because that's kind of what he saw growing up. I mean, I actually don't even know if that is, but I don't know. Is there more of a risk if that happens? Like, because to me, it's coming down to just respect. I mean, and you have to respect yourself. If you respect yourself, you would treat people the same way, wouldn't you? You wouldn't. If you respected yourself, you wouldn't cheat on your significant other. You wouldn't talk to women like they're a sexual object. You wouldn't take everything that they say and make it dirty in your mind, right? You would have respect.
And because then I would also assume that people are not selfish, or that they don't just think of themselves. And I mean, that's the whole thing with change. When we talk about change and why change is so difficult, is because somebody somewhere along the way is going to lose power, or is going to lose some sort of social status when we talk about changing things. You know what I mean? So self-respect is one thing, and then looking at people as equals, I think, is just a totally different thing. I just don't think that that we're necessarily yet equals in men's eyes. I think our society is changing, and I think that there are a lot of men that still think of that do look at us that way, but I think that we're still so far away from it being like equal.
So I have to tell you, Carmen and Victoria, I am a little concerned now. You probably read the news that Joe Biden picked his running mate, and she's probably going to get crucified by someone of the opposite party. I can picture the names that are going to be called, and you may recall in the past taking characteristics of women. We have to be careful too, because our children are watching TV. They watch TV, they watch the news, they watch politicians speak, and they watch how they talk about women. And I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that Kamala is taken at face value for everything that she has done to get to the position of being asked to be vice president, and not anything that has to do with her feminine side or her being a woman. And so that's that. I'm thrilled she's picked. But I'm nervous now. Like, because whatever is said, whatever conversation is now said around this by any party, my daughter's going to hear.
Right.
And then what do you think?
So, I mean, think about, so almost everybody knows, for the most part, if you follow me, I am a conservative for the most part. There are some things that I go back and forth, but look at how they treated Sarah Palin. Look at how they talked about both of the last first ladies, Michelle Obama and now Melania Trump. Think about, just those positions and how those women, I mean, probably Sarah Palin, I would say, was the worst. There were some really gruesome things that were said about her, but even Hillary, I mean, look at some of the things that were said about Hillary. It was really disheartening to hear, and it's still disheartening to hear when you see a large majority of people just talking about women in that way. But then we are seeing it with Donald Trump, and we are seeing it with Joe Biden, where the line of humanity is completely gone. So forget about whatever party you represent or however you vote or whatever. Again, I am traditionally a conservative, but what I see being said from conservatives and from liberals about men of the opposite party is disgusting. But now what I see them say about women, obviously because I'm a woman's issues kind of a person, it's very disheartening. But I would say, come 10 o'clock tonight, we will already see the memes and the conversations and stuff. And I would say that it's definitely a time for women to use that power of voice, regardless of where you stand. If you are a conservative woman, I would say, regardless of where you stand, you should not, attack this woman on anything. I mean, I think it's okay to have your opinion. That's important. We should have our opinions. But attacking another woman about where they stand morally or whatever, that's just not a good thing to do. It's no different that if I disagreed with Victoria on something, I value women in my community. I'm not going to blast her and say, I don't agree with what she's saying. And now suddenly she's a horrible woman and she's all these things. And the word bitch is used way too much. Okay. We use that way too much to reference women. We use it to reference men's weakness because it refers to women. And then we're upset that that's how we treat women. So I would say during this time, I would encourage the women that I know and the women that you know and the women that see this, that it's really not a time to attack other women. I think it's just something that you gotta set aside. And if you disagree with their political views, that's okay. But I think the personal attacks, they need to go. I mean, they don't serve us any purpose. I really could care less how orange Donald Trump is, or, if people think that Joe Biden is too old. I just don't think those are things that we should be talking about. Those are all things that are
oh gosh, hold on, guys. Dog is peeing. You're looking at me and he's like,
that's your dog. Tell me your opinion, Victoria. Go for it.
No, and I agree with what you're saying. The personal attacks, I agree with you. I don't care if Donald Trump is orange. That doesn't change his political stance. I think the best dog in the fight would be actually educating yourself on the legal issues, but the political issues that are, intertwined with social issues, legal issues, even just chain of command issues. Educate yourself on all of those issues. That's the only way that, any productive conversation can ever come out of that. There's nothing productive out of pointing the finger and saying, well, that person is, more orange than the other. Who cares? As long as that person can diplomatically conduct international relations, international affairs, I don't care if they're orange, really. I mean, it's a little bit weird, but it's 2020. It's weird. It's weird now. So
I think it's so interesting. I think it's again, every single time we come around political season, we know that we're going to be talking about a lot of social issues, civil rights issues, now social injustice, and we're going to be talking about now this whole week. All we're going to hear is that the vice president is a woman, which makes me wonder if people are realizing that the fact that that's a conversation is that women's issues are still so important, just as important as they were 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago. The fact that that's a conversation piece means that we need to be having more of these conversations more often, weekly, monthly, on panels. Men need to be having these conversations. I was a part of the Orange County Task Force with Commissioner Rod Love, and he put these series together, and they were called Engaging Men, Advancing Women series, and it was panels of all different men and women. It was very diverse, and we're talking about social issues, and then we're talking about business. And I think we just need to keep having those conversations, but it needs to be men too. Men have to be a part of these women's issues conversations, and because if not, then it's still a woman's issue. 10 years from now, we're still talking about women's issues that are truly community issues.
So true. So true. Hey, Mary wrote, it's kind of interesting. Mary wrote, women may be afraid to talk about situations because others judge them wrong, especially when there is no support system. I think a strong mentoring program targeting these areas are needed. And Daniela, our lovely Daniela, said, to make a difference, you have to have a seat at the table for sure. And she hashtag women rule the world, which is great. I have a hashtag that I use, which is, children are watching. Children are watching.
Children are watching.
Children are watching. They see everything that we're doing. They hear everything. They know what's going on. And they're watching the news. They're watching just whatever's taking place on the TV. And we want to make sure that we're showing that we respect women. No matter what happens with Camilla, I hope that she's treated with the respect that she deserves. She got where she is right now, being asked to be vice president, which is a big deal. And I'm sure she thought long and hard of it because she's deserving of that position, whether she wins or not, but she deserves that seat. And we haven't even had a female president.
No.
Someday.
Soon. So I'm already committed the month of October. All of my conversations the month of October are going to be dedicated to domestic violence issues. So all of my guests are going to be domestic violence issues. But I will commit here today that September will be women's issues and that we'll talk about specific issues. So I want to encourage you guys to give me things to talk about. What do you guys want to hear? What experts do you want me to talk to about women's issues that affect us? And should there be more people at the table? I don't know how many people this thing holds, but we can always go to another platform and have some of these conversations and dialogue through some of the issues and some of the things that we can do to be a stronger voice in our community and just impact Volusia County. I think we impact our backyard before we can impact anything else. But that's I think it's important. I'd love for you ladies to be at the table for those conversations. And I'd love for us to continue to have these conversations with men outside of this platform. And I hope that one day we can put a group of men together in our community that are strong influencers and strong voices that can say, hey, this is our standard. This is how Volusia County does it. And everyone should do it like we do it. We should be the best at everything. Volusia Proud can really be broken up into a lot of things. What are we proud about? What's the standard that we're setting in all these different areas, whether it's social issues, whether it's business? I happen to think we have an amazing business community. I think people here are super open. I feel very blessed to have come here from a community that I loved. I was afraid to leave the community that I was in because I was in it for so long, but I feel so welcome here. So when we say Volusia Proud and we say we are the best, what are we proud of? And I really want to challenge you guys and your friends and my friends watching us today and that will watch us when we post this later. What are you proud of? And is there an area that you're not so proud of? And let's work together to change that.
I love that. I would love to see also every, someone that represents each decade. So have, little girl Alex and a teen to right up to someone that's in their 80s, so that you get a really nice reflection of each age and what that looks like. Because I'm curious, the millennials, but what is someone that's just getting their first job right out of college and she's working hard towards that? What does that look like for her? What are her concerns? So I love what you're doing, Carmen. You're awesome. You are a great influence in our community.
Oh, thank you. Well, I appreciate both of you guys' time. Thank you so much for joining me beneath the surface and just opening up impromptu. Um, I hope to have you both on again to talk about these things and about your businesses. And I look forward to seeing you guys in person and hopefully being able to make an impact in our communities that way. I really appreciate both of your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
All right, ladies. Bye.
Thank you.